Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something deeply, profoundly human. We're going to look at exactly how we process the absolute heaviest things we carry in life. It's the kind of topic that asks us to slow down just a bit, to really reflect on the words and the art that give shape to our deepest feelings. Today, we are looking at the anatomy of an elegy. Some words carry memory, grief, entire lifetimes of emotion. Man, just let that sink in for a second. There's this specific, almost haunting weight to certain words in our vocabulary, and honestly, perhaps the most powerful among them is the word elegy. It's not just a word. It's a vessel for something we are all going to experience eventually, but almost always struggle to actually articulate. Really, it's the sound of the human heart trying to make sense of an empty space. Section 1. The language of loss. So what is it exactly? Well, at its core, an elegy is a poem of serious reflection, typically a lament for the dead. But please do not mistake the elegy for just some dusty, passive archive of human grief you'd find in an old textbook. An elegy is an active journey. It is a literal engine of processing. What do I mean by that? Well, when a writer sits down to construct an elegy, they aren't just recording their sadness like a historian taking notes. No, they're building a pathway through the dark. The very act of writing it, of desperately searching for the right syllables and metaphors to contain the overwhelming magnitude of loss, it actually forces the mind to organize the sheer chaos of grief. And for the reader, it offers a hand in the dark. You literally travel through the elegy, moving step by step alongside the author until you both reach the other side. It is raw emotional labor, transformed into art. Now here's something wild you might not know. Historically, back in classical literature, an elegy didn't even have to be sad. It was defined entirely by a specific rhythm. It was a structural format called elegiac couplets. So it was purely about the meter of the words, alternating these specific patterns of syllables. You could write a love poem or even a comedic story, and as long as it followed that strict mathematical rhythm, boom, it was technically an elegy. But over time, that definition underwent a pretty profound evolution. Because that specific rhythm was so often used for solemn, reflective subjects, the meaning deepened. It completely shifted from being a rule of rhythm to a rule of emotion, becoming what we know it as today, the ultimate modern language of loss. We basically stopped caring about counting syllables and started caring about capturing sorrow. Section 2. The 3 stages of grief. A true, traditional elegy perfectly mirrors human psychology, mainly because it moves through 3 distinct, absolutely necessary phases of healing. Step 1 is the lament. This is where the speaker expresses raw, unfiltered, overwhelming grief. It's the immediate shock, the denial, the anger at the universe. In poetry, this usually looks like broken sentences, cries to the heavens, and that agonizing realization that someone is really gone. Then we hit step 2, praise. This is a crucial pivot. The author begins to honor the life, the virtues, and the memory of the person they lost. Psychologically, this is huge. This is where we stop focusing solely on the devastating absence and start celebrating the beautiful presence that once was. It's remembering their laugh, their kindness, the impact they had on the world. And finally, step 3, solace. Now, the grief doesn't magically disappear here. It never does. But the poem shifts. The speaker finds a way to accept the loss, arriving at a place of peace or at least a philosophical comfort. It's the realization that while the person is gone, their memory endures. This 3-part structure, it's an incredible, time-tested formula for human healing. Section 3, Elegies and History. The timeline of the elegy stretches beautifully across the centuries. We start with those ancient classical couplets, and then we leap forward to, say, 1865. Walt Whitman writes his extremely famous poem, "O Captain, My Captain," right after the assassination of American President Abraham Lincoln. Whitman uses this incredibly powerful metaphor of a ship returning from a victorious voyage, only to find its captain dead on the deck. And he perfectly maps those 3 stages of healing we just talked about. He starts with lament. "O bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead." Then he moves right into praise, demanding they ring the bells and fly the flag in honor of this great leader. And finally, he reaches a grim solace, accepting the victory of the ship
even as he walks the deck with mournful tread. But this historical timeline doesn't stop in the 19th century, not at all. The tradition of the elegy carries its unbroken thread all the way to modern music legends like Eric Clapton and even today's pop icons like Billie Eilish.
Section 4. Modern elegies in music. See, elegies are breathing, living things in our everyday lives. Think about these modern applications. When Eric Clapton wrote Tears in Heaven following the tragic loss of his young son, he was writing a modern elegy. He was taking a deeply personal, agonizingly invisible emotion and making it visible and audible for the entire world. When Billie Eilish captures that haunting, quiet longing in her music, those are elegies too. We are still using the exact same formula to heal. But what is truly magical about modern music is how collective listening transforms a deeply personal elegy into a communal healing experience. When an artist sings their grief in a stadium of 50,000 people, or when millions stream that exact same song simultaneously, the burden of that sorrow is shared. Because sometimes an elegy isn't written down with a quill and ink. Sometimes it's an anthem sung at 2 a.m., playing quietly through your headphones when you feel like you're the only person awake in the world, just reminding you that someone else has felt exactly this way and survived it. Section 5. Surviving sorrow through art. Everything we have explored today leads us to this one really beautiful conclusion. The true purpose of an elegy is not to erase grief. I mean, you can't simply delete the love you have for someone who is no longer here. The purpose is to give that grief somewhere to live outside of yourself. Humans were never meant to carry such immense sorrow silently. Our minds and our bodies simply aren't built to bear that crushing weight entirely alone. So instead, we build containers for it. We write it into stanzas, we sing it into microphones, we paint it, we film it, we weave it into elegies. We give our heaviest emotions a home outside of our own chests. And somehow, through the structure of that art, the burden becomes just a little bit lighter. By turning our deepest pain into something that can be seen, heard, and shared, we survive it. Art gives our heaviest emotions a home. If you enjoyed this explainer and this deep dive into the words and structures that shape our human experience, please hit that subscribe button. And before you go, I would absolutely love to hear from you down in the comments. What piece of art, whether it's a song, a poem, a movie, has been an elegy for you? What piece of art has helped you through a tough time? Let me know. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll see you next time.